All right, folks, we apologize for the technical difficulties, but we are back with Master Hakim Alston. Ronnie, you were saying about Master Alston getting hurt. Like that was kind of a that was kind of tragic almost. But for you to finish the movie and finish your scene, you know, that's that's a big it's a big jump and a big accomplishment because most people would have just wrote it off.
You know what? I think you say that, but I think that I would disagree with you, only to the sense that says, listen, when you know that you are part of something that's a little larger than yourself, you tend to react differently. And your responses are, there's nothing, I don't want to say there's nothing, there's really nothing heroic about, pulling yourself up and doing what you are there to do, doing your part.
Right.
I think that that's what you sign up for. And sometimes it is not easy. Sometimes it's not, convenient. But that's life. I mean, you understand that. I mean,
Right.
it's one of those entities where you kind of say, listen, if you truly believe that we are products of how we deal with adversity, then that's just another one of those examples. So I think that each one of you, and whoever's out there, understands that, hey, listen, when it really comes down to testing who your character truly, what your character is truly made of, you might surprise yourself.
Right. I saw the first question I had was, are you still friends or in contact with anybody from WMAC Masters? And my second question was, I saw a picture of you dressed like Jax. Was that for a video game shoot or just because? Because I think when we look at it now, the dude that they had playing Jax in the second movie was okay, but I think they should have stuck with more of the first crew or
Hmm.
crew from the first movie to make the movie stand out because that sequel. They always say a sequel is not as good as the first one, but I think that one could have been as good, if not better, if they'd have followed the first format.
Okay, well, to answer the first half of your question about the Jax outfit or costume. Um, if you recall, if I can reference back to some part of the conversation that we had earlier, with respect to me kind of being in this holding pattern, uh, with some of the career moves that we're about to make, while Chuck was doing some of these other films were in the process of being lit. Um, there were other things that came my way, and one of those things was where Larry Kazanoff, the producer of MK, said, "Hakeem, listen, I know you're waiting to do this other project, but we are putting together this live show. It's Mortal Kombat the live show, the live tour, and I would love for you to participate at least in the very beginning." To kind of get these guys to where they need to be, and it would be a real benefit or a favor for me. So when him and I knew Pat Johnson was part of the project, and it was during that time, I said, "Hey, listen, Pat, if you want me to do it, I'm all in." So we went into the Catskills, and we basically trained for a live tour, where we were opening in New York City at Radio City Music Hall. And my character that I was playing was Jax in the live tour. Um, and I smile when I think about the live tour because I no longer envy rock and roll bands, rap bands, anybody who's on tour. More power to you, because that grind, that grind, that's a whole different mindset out there, man. I mean, you really feel as if you're kind of you're part of this dog and pony show, and I take nothing away from the people who are actually able to um, embrace that type of entertainment and performance, because it takes a special person to be able to do that. I'm just not that person. So yes, that was part of a character that I did for the live tour.
And then
Preface.
are
What was the
you?
second half of the question? Oh, I'm sorry. I answered the second half first. The first half of the question was, am I still in communications with members from WMAC? The answer is yes, kind of. I've always been, one of my good friends have always been Chris Casamassa and Larry Lamb prior to uh, us, performing or actually taking part of the show WMEC. So that friendship has not shifted. That friendship has only grown. So I'm still in constant communication with Chris. I'm still in constant communication. And actually, I just saw Larry not too long ago. Still in constant communication with Larry. I saw her when I was out in California. So those three, we were kind of like known on the project with WMEC. We had this little wolf pack that was kind of an, I hate to say a clique, but it was, it was kind of a clique that, it's basically four of us that kind of ran within that pack. And I'm still relatively close to those guys. Other guys,
Cool.
not so much.
Cause yeah, outside of you and I want to say it was Superstar.
Mm-hmm.
Larry, yeah, Larry was one of my favorite. I don't know why. It's like he was like the cool bad guy, I guess. Cause he had that look like you could trust him, but you still might want to watch him.
Yeah, yeah, Warlock. Well, that's my boy, man. Larry's one of my ride or dies, and I think that they wrote the script that uh, it fit the character as well. I mean, you guys have to realize. I mean, these were, for the most part, these were actual, true martial art cats that were doing a television show. I mean, so there was not, it wasn't the opposite way around where you were trying to teach actors how to basically fight. It was the reverse of that. You're trying to teach fighters how to, present themselves in front of a camera. Um, so, these, I mean, they tend, with that being said, I'm saying the scripts were kind of shifted and molded to make it easy for the characters to kind of simulate or kind of assume their true identity, who they really were. So a lot of the things that were written for us wasn't far from who we were, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, because your story when they asked how you became the machine was one of the ones that I kind of gravitated to in terms of I got an anger problem.
Hmm.
I like to fight a lot. One way or another. I'm gonna show you. So I think that was the main reason why I gravitated towards your character and my childhood friends at the time. They were more of for some odd reason on Olympus's team, which is Herb Perez. And I was just like, he ain't better than the machine, man. Y'all ain't paying attention to the right stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
And,
listen,
and then
it's
it come
funny.
to find out you
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
uh, like it was so fun to watch. No, it was just so fun to watch that show because you know when you finally start seeing you guys in movies and then like reading the credits after the movies and that you guys did this movies, it made the show more fun to watch because now we know y'all not just at the time of being kids, you're not just putting on a corny show. This is what y'all do. A lot of
Hmm.
y'all. Olympus was a Olympic gold medal winner in the '92 Olympics. You were a champion, world champion kickboxer. You know, it was fun to see because limited information at the time, but it was fun to see you guys doing other projects, and we still see you on Saturday mornings. Like, yo, he's really he really legit.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's again, I kind of go back to what I said earlier. I mean, the show was actually developed uh, to really take the arts themselves and take the actual cast and really try to bridge that gap of fantasy and reality, meaning that they were saying, hey, listen, this, yes, these cats are real. I mean, we don't want to get actors. We're not trying to go that direction. We want to get the real deal, bring them to the forefront, and let you kind of see how the reality of this real, martial artist, this real guy in real life, is able to kind of cope with situations that may be relevant to you. And that was kind of the thrust of it. And now, if you guys don't know, which I'm sure you don't, but there was a reason why WMC Masters only did 2 seasons. Um, and it was, uh, and again, I don't think this is any, I don't think I'm breaching any type of um, NDAs here. But I think that there was a direction that the CEO of, I think it was Four Kids Production at the time, was trying to go with WMC Masters. He was trying to go in a direction where it was more like the WWE. Okay, he wanted to take the show and really kind of go in that really kind of hokey kind of kind of entertainment, kind of fantasy world. And I'm not knocking WWE. I'm simply saying that's the direction he was trying to take it. That was kind of his background. And there was a lot of pushback by Fox. There was a lot of pushback by the studios. And we were actually, if you guys remember, kind of like where they were setting up that last episode, we were actually going to parlay that into an actual movie. So
Oh wow.
there was a movie that was being set up basically by the television show and some of the other stuff that we were doing. And because of the conflict um, with Norman, Fox, and some of the other people, uh, they basically came to a loggerhead. They came to a standoff for the most part, uh, and the show got put in hiatus. And that was one of the unfortunate things because the show's ratings were extremely well. I mean, were extremely high for that type of show. And the loyal audience that we had was one of those things that most shows aspire to do. So the show itself was a very, and I go back to kind of like why I'm kind of getting there. The show, in its essence, in its core, was hitting all the right marks. We're pulling these true martial artists, pulling these stories together, pulling basically something that can be built from the core and bottom up. And then it went, kind of hit the wall when some of the creative heads up top could not come to an understanding to really push that product forward. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, because that Jaquito thing, it was cool, but it wasn't like I don't think most of us really understood it at the time because we were like, "Who? What?"
Well,
They brought
that's what I'm saying. That's when you have to realize Paul, the guys, and some of the top brass, they were really trying to. He wanted to parlay this into going that WWE, like I said, that live show route. So he, when you're putting a lot of money behind certain, you have sway, and because of that, he was able to control some of the narratives of the storylines. And that second season kind of got a little raggedy because the storylines were not consistent with what we were trying to really establish from season one.
right.
And because you had, and you guys really, maybe you could or maybe you couldn't, you could, we knew as part of the part of the cast on the mixed messaging that was kind of happening in season two. And because of that, I don't think we were, the internal people, we were surprised that it happened to hit that wall when it did. That's unfortunate.
Right. Yeah, that was kind of sad because we were into it. I know I was, Ronnie was, and like I said, watching you guys from Mortal Kombat and then seeing you in other movies, it was like, yeah, this is what makes this show legit. I'm on board
Mhm.
now. Because a lot of you guys were in other movies. I know Turbo was in Tiger Claws, which is one of my favorite crime movies. Um, Ho Sung has done movies with Jackie Chan. I know he was in the Drunken Master movie. Um, you got you got Mortal Kombat, and then after that you got Blood Moon. How did Blood Moon come about?
Well, it was one of. Listen, it's again, it was funny how, and again, I'm gonna have to kind of keep piecing this stuff together so you guys understand kind of like the timeline and then how this kind of played itself out. Uh, you have to realize when I was doing WMC Masters, and then like I said, right after that we were doing Mortal Kombat, and then right after that I actually was doing a television show over in um, Lithuania, Robin Hood. When I did Robin Hood, and then when I did Robin Hood, that parlayed into Blood Moon, and I'm trying to. All the scheduling is happening as the agents are again kind of supposedly putting things together from a resume standpoint for myself to launch to a bigger project, a bigger project. So to answer your question, Blood Moon was just one of those things where the the director was simply saying, "Hey, listen, we would love to have Hakim come in. I know we can't pull him for certain things, but we can pull him for this party to give us some credence to what we're trying to put together from a project standpoint." So they talked to the agent. The agent manager says, "Yeah, no, it's a good product. I mean, it's a good project. He can go in there and do his thing in and out within 4 or 5 days. Let's make it happen." So it was one of the, and again, I'm saying this, and hopefully you guys understand that the business of show business is really not a big business when it comes down to the network. Yeah, it is interconnected with who you know and timing. So the agents that I had, the managers that were representing me, and again, it was just one of those times where they were like, "Listen, we need this look, we need this person." And all you do is pick up the phone and you talk to one person, and if it's the right person, you're connected to that person, you're in, and that's it. I've never auditioned one time in my life for anything that I've ever done.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy. For those aspiring actors, you just learned something new because you could get in if you know the right people, and that's pretty good, man. Just never
Well,
have to audition.
let me say this too, and I want to make sure I'm crystal clear. Um, it's yes, it is getting in with the right people to really hit the right projects. But something Pat told me again very early on in this process, he said, "Listen, opportunities are going to come. Um, Opportunities are only going to become. They're only going to present themselves to you because you've put in the work. You've put in the work to get to a certain point. They don't come just because you know the right people. You are prepared, and the ones who are able to take advantage of those opportunities are the ones who are most prepared. So it's important that if you're talking to someone who's aspiring to do something, there's no getting around putting in the work. Be ready, and then start to
Right.
put yourself in certain situations. Connect. Look who you are speaking with. Look who you're connecting with. Look who you're surrounding yourself with. Um, because if you're constantly putting yourself in talent and value will always be recognized. But again, it's sometimes again timing, connections. They then put you in different situations and different points in time. But just be ready. I mean, prepare yourself and be ready to take advantage of the opportunities because they will come.
Right. Okay. Me and Ronnie were having this conversation earlier this week, and you may disagree, you may not, but me and him were talking. We were looking up your credentials as far as a fighter.
Hmm.
So, really wins that fight 1-on-1? You or Robin Show if it's not scripted? Because we personally think you serve Liu Kang if it's
All right,
unscripted.
all right. Let me preference that answer by first saying I have nothing but respect. I mean, mad respect for Robin. And I want you guys to really digest that and understand that it's one of those scenarios where you understand there's a fighter, a real. That's what I've trained to do my entire life. And then you have someone who was a practitioner with Robin, more on the form and performance side, but no disrespect to him. I mean, but you have to kind of make sure that you're looking at your question and understanding the answer that you're seeking. Real life fighting, okay, come on. I mean, it is what it is. But that's not what I don't put myself in that versus, so to speak, with someone like a Robin Shoe, because
Right.
I think that the question is a little unfair if you follow what I'm saying. But nothing but
Well,
respect.
yeah, we did because we
Definitely.
did a tail of the tape. Yeah, we understand completely, but we were doing a tail of the tape, and we were just. I had actually went back and watched that first fight, and I'm like, man. And then the picture of you as a WMAC master, where it says you're 6'8", 215. I'm like, man, if he's really 6'8", who's getting that close?
First
Like
of
you
all,
can't.
let's set the record
Right.
straight. I'm 6'5". I'm not 6'8".
Okay,
That's a crazy misprint. And we didn't. I didn't. When I saw those flyers when they first came, we were actually doing I think it was a NAFTA show or some show for the a promotional thing for WMC Masters, and I happened to see the flyers, or they had these printouts of the different characters, and I saw this. I'm like, are you guys? What is this? I mean, so that's studio doing studio. But I want to also lay something out there for you guys. There was when Robin and I were choreographing the fight scene from Mortal Kombat. Pat Johnson was the fight choreographer. I can't even freaking say the word. What am I saying? Choreographer. Oh my God, I can't even talk right now. Anyway, so Pat had a certain way in which he wanted the fight scene to be portrayed. Now Robin comes from a little more of the Hong Kong styles, and Robin wanted the fight scenes portrayed in a certain way. Now you have to understand that, yeah, I'm on Team Pat. Yeah, at the time, because I'm just meeting Robin. So I'm just like, look, I know Pat from the day. I'm on Team Pat. So I'm not really feeling the way you are. You're trying to switch things up right now. So we kind of got into a little back and forth as we're putting the fight scenes together. And I really was not a big fan of Robin up until the point we actually did the fight scene. And I say that because I have a tendency, before I actually get up in somebody, meaning before I actually ready to roll up and say, let's go, I tend to smile. There's a certain, I smile, and then I'm like, if you see me smile, it's on, bro. We're going. Let's make this happen. And if you guys notice, there was a piece in the beginning of the fight scene where Robin was doing his thing, and the cameras were on me, and you saw me smile. I was not happy. I was not smiling because I was happy. I was smiling like I want to. We were like, let's go, bro. Let's do this. If you happen to slip,
wow.
something might happen. But we were able to go there, and then Robin I became, a tremendous, respectful colleague of Robin and friends. And again, we talked, even to this day. So it was just one of those things, a little, again, behind the scenes thing, where even though you had the pain of the hand being, screwed up, yeah, I was not really happy at the time.
Anybody that smile at you before the fight happens is not to be messed with. I just want to let that be known.
Right. Trust me,
especially if they 6'5". Like whether or now that we know that it was a misprint, regardless of the fact you too tall to be trying to get close to. So I don't even know how that fight would even go. I tried to map that out in my head. It's just not every strategic plan I came up with. It's not working.
No.
So
again, I'm going to be modest and I'm going to be humble, and I'm going to just say no.
For sure.
Yeah, because Ronnie's a tall guy too. It's like
I'm the same height. Yeah.
Okay.
And I just remember we were playing basketball one day in the gym at high school, and I tried to drive the lane, And he just stood there, and I was like, yeah, this ain't gonna work. I'm gonna just go back to the 3-point line where I belong.
Yeah, sometimes size matters,
Yeah.
But
So
again, it's one of those things too. I mean, you have to, I mean, and I'm sure Ronnie can attest to this. Size does have its, benefits. I mean, but if you do not know how to utilize your size, it means absolutely zero. When I used to actually
right,
fight, I actually preferred fighting individuals who were bigger. I mean, if I could find someone, and it was very rare that I could find someone who was larger, I'm licking my chops. I'm like, I got this. First because I know I'm faster, I know I'm stronger, and I'm like, let's do this. So I'm gonna run with this guy. The smaller fighters, and I'll say this again, and simply because of experience, smaller fighters have more to prove. They are the type of fighters where you are going to have to almost kill those fools before they stop. I mean, and again, it's the bigger guy is not used to getting hit. You hit him a couple of times, he
Yeah.
doesn't know what the hell just happened. He's done. He's done.
yeah,
Feel like goodbye. Smaller fighter, he's like, yo, what? I'm still coming. Knock me down. I'm still coming. So those smaller fighters, I knew I had my work cut out, bro. So trust me, no, I mean, size matters, but you got to have something behind. You have to have something behind that.
right. So, what has life been like for you outside of movies and choreography and martial arts?
I mean, when you ask that question, I mean, life, and that's a very interesting question to unpack because there are a lot of layers to that. And I'll try to stay focused on answering the question just with the basic semantics of life. I've been extremely fortunate. I mean, I've been extremely fortunate, from pretty much almost from the jump. Thanks, mom. Thanks, dad. And thanks the Lord above. I mean, I've had tremendous opportunities that I was able to take advantage of in my life, and that have put me in some very advantageous situations. I mean, and I'm talking from a family standpoint, from a financial standpoint, and even from a growth standpoint. So to me, and I referenced this earlier, where I said, it's one of those things where you're able to adapt and adjust or you die. And that goes for anything that you do. So the type of character that you have is who you are, and no matter what situations you're in, you will that true you will tend to surface and present its his or herself at those challenging times, whether they're good or bad. So with saying that, um, I've been blessed. I mean, I've been blessed with four beautiful daughters. I've been, blessed with a financial situation that has put me in a very, and then I got to be careful how I say this, but a very comfortable situation. And I have daughters who recently graduated from Texas A&M, full ride scholarship, doing that. Another one just graduated from VCU. She's now working as a lobbyist in DC. Another one down at NYU in New York as a
Nice.
sophomore now. The other one is at VCU. I mean, so that is rocking and rolling. Beautiful wife. She just actually overcame breast cancer. She, effectively, beat that, and
Congratulations.
she's rocking with that. I have a little grandson who's just absolutely phenomenal. After the four girls, I have a little, little tight rolling to carry the legacy rocking from there. Businesses, in New York. I have businesses in DC, in Virginia, and we just opened up another place up in Maryland. We're actually doing something where I'm working with Batista and a couple of the NFL cats. We're about to open up a couple of spots in DC and in New York.
Nice.
Wow.
So I mean, things I've been, from the nightclubs that I've owned, the restaurants that I've owned, to the financing business that is the main kind of hoverboard on that. It's one of those things, and I say that not to say anything, but I look at my situation, no matter what I'm involved with, with trying to always attack it by presenting value, by trying to have that optimistic push of saying, listen, I already know if I'm gonna invest the most valuable thing that I have, which is my time, then I'm gonna roll my sleeves up and we're gonna rock this bad boy out. I'm gonna see, 2 or 3 moves ahead in regards to how we can take this situation and make it bigger. I'm never looking at
Right.
the short game. I'm looking at the long game. So, not to be, you know, too, laboring with the answer, but I've been fortunate. I mean, we live in challenging times, and you have to be able to look at these times, and understand what these challenges present and how they actually affect you, and what opportunities are presented within those challenges. And that's a perspective. That's how your mind works, and that's a mind of a champion and mind of someone who's trying to push forward. The mind is always working. I don't want to say differently, but their minds are working to the standpoint of saying, where's the opportunity in this right now? This adversity is here. Where's the opportunity? Because I know that there's an opportunity here. I just have to make sure that I'm looking at it, identify it, and then try to, take advantage of it.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. And we actually have a comment from one of our viewers. Um, Lafayette Tino Thorpe wanted to know what part of your career was worth the struggle.
All of it. What do you mean? What part of my career? I mean, all of it. I mean, the answer is that, when you say struggle, I think that it's important that you understand that that's a perspective. Remember what I just said. Okay, I don't really associate or surround myself with people who want things. Okay, and I want you to understand where I'm going with this. Um, I surround myself with people who need things. There's a big difference between want and need. So if I need to be a champion, if I need to win this particular situation in front of me, if I need to get from A to B, then guess what? I'm going to do whatever the hell I have to do. It's like breathing. All right. So I need to breathe, right? I need to eat, right?
Yeah.
So if I need to do these things and accomplish these things, I don't look at getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning as a struggle. I don't look at putting in the work as a struggle. I understand that this is what I have to do. This is what I need to do to get what I need. So it's one of those scenarios that it's I don't have enough time. That's a problem to do all the things that I see in front of myself that is possible. But at the same time and again, not to make the answer too long, it's just one of those things where the struggle to me, even though it was challenging, okay, it was difficult. It was not a struggle. It was something that I knew was necessary to get to something that I needed. So I looked at it and I processed it different, whether it's as I said, the work I put in at the gym, or the diet that I had to maintain, or the sacrifices that I have to make instead of going out and partying one night. If I know I had to say, listen, let me hunker down because I know I have to get that body to recoup. It's not a struggle. Sacrifice. I understand.
Right.
I'm able to put the clarity there.
Right. Um, I've learned a lot. We've
Same
conversed over
here.
the last week. Just trying to figure out how we were going to conduct the show, and it was just like this was really big for us because when we branched out on our own, we took a chance. I took a chance to ask you to be a part of the show,
Mm-hmm.
and we're here now. It paid off, so I completely understand where
Well
you're
done.
coming from.
Okay. And I said this
Because
to you before, I think in one of your comments. I said, listen, I said, I'm humbled because I am no different than you. Okay. When it comes down to, one brother to another brother. And I admire someone who understands, hey, listen, it is not about sheltering in the place of safety. It's about risking. It's about stepping out into that uncomfortable zone. And whether it is hey, Hakim, can you do this podcast? If that's uncomfortable, great. It should be uncomfortable. The next move should be uncomfortable. the next move after that should be uncomfortable. And that's how you're going to continue to, once again, put that one foot in front of the next, to get to a place that you can sit back and go, okay, I'm cool with that.
Mm. Now, just for the folks at home, I did do some research here, and I hate to say it like this, but you die in Blood Moon and Mortal Kombat. Why do they have to write off the good guy, the one of the better fighters in the movie? Like, why couldn't they save you for like the middle of the movie or towards the end of the movie? Why couldn't you be like the last fight before the big fight?
Again, I mean, look, let's be real. Yeah, and this is not. I'm not going off on the killing the black guy or this and that. That's not the tip I'm on. It's a script. It's a piece of entertainment, and it's a story. You have to kind of know that when you're embarking on a project, where you fit within that story. So I am never, if the story works, then I'm never disappointed with the character or the role that I play, because it goes back to what I kind of referenced earlier. I mean, look, it's not about how big the role is or how long the role lasts. It's about what you do with what you have. And if you really make it impactful, and you really are putting yourself into that, whether it's 20 minutes or 5 minutes, it doesn't matter. And this is the part of making sure that collectively you understand the individually competing versus competing as a team, that you're all in. I'm all in to make sure that the team is going to get to that goal of being successful. And my role is my role, and I'm cool with that. I am cool with that. And then when it comes down, when it's my time to step up and be that, to take on another role that is going to have more longevity, it's going to be the star role and be that, the character A, then I better be ready for it. And let me take on that role and understand that I have to make sure I put that piece, but at the same time, as I got other pieces around me that all also have to buy in order for it to work properly. So yeah, I mean,
respect.
And again, I said before, I'm never. People asked me before. I mean, this is not the first time. They said, "God, don't wish you had a bigger part." And my honest answer is no. My honest answer is no. I think the part that I was presented for that project was the right part for me. And I think that what I did with that part, hopefully it resonated to the people who were actually able to be entertained with it, and say, okay, that I believe where that cat was coming from. I believe what he put in. I believe the work that he put in, and I'm cool with that piece of it. And hopefully it tied into the rest of the story to where it actually had some relevancy and had some impact.
Yeah, it had some impact because we watched it and we thought, at the time it was like either the black dude gonna win or there's gonna be a draw, and then it ended up coming out one of the most iconic catchphrases in movie history. Your soul is mine.
Yeah.
So it had a big impact. Little did we know.
Yeah,
are you still a practitioner in martial arts? Do you still have any? Do you still train rather?
Yes, the answer is yes. I mean, and it's one of those things that when you are a true practitioner of the arts, that is then part of your core essence of who you are. And yes, I mean, to a certain extent, my training is not what it was, 20 years ago, obviously. But in regards to the approach in which I am always trying to challenge my body, as well as challenge my mind, and how the arts play into that in my training regiment and what I do. Yeah, I'm always going to be a practitioner until I am 6 feet under.
Amazing.
Ronnie, you got anything?
No, I am so pleased, blessed to have this opportunity. Very thankful, Hakeem, for you to have us come on our show, man, and to, drop some knowledge on us for sure. A lot of things that I've heard or have been able to take from you is that, we're just all a part of this journey called life, man. And each step is something that is supposed to happen, and we have to just make sure we're taking the right path along the way to get to where our final goal is, man. So I just thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you.
Oh, the honor's mine, and again, I'm not saying that to be flippant. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think that we're taking the time which is what we have. I mean, it's a very finite thing that we have, which is time. I mean, I'm giving that to you. You're giving that to me. So I'm honored whenever I am, blessed with the opportunity to actually focus in on really executing, kind of delivering some type of substance to that, to the time that we have. And
It
it's
was,
go. I'm sorry.
it was great substance. Great substance.
Very good,
Okay.
sir.
All right. Well, gentlemen, it was a pleasure. I think that, hopefully, some of the words were entertaining. Some of the stories, I should say, were entertaining. Some of the words were impactful. And again, I think that there's a whole scope of things that, I want to, kind of encourage you guys to make sure that you're pursuing within your quest and your journey. uh, as you are putting your interviews together, diving deep, really, yes, you want to cover the surface of, with the entertainment element of it, but mixing some of the crucial elements that drives the human spirit. I mean, understanding that uh, when you're talking, whether it's sports or whether you're talking, politics, or whether you're talking, just culture, and I say culture meaning, the society in which we live. Um, Make sure that you're touching on the human spirit. I mean, because that's really what ties us all together. Um, we should not look outside of ourselves. We should not look for others. We should not point fingers. I mean, we are within our own makeup, the energy that we have within ourselves, our mind, our spirit, our total essence of who we are is controllable if we understand it is very moldable, if we understand that it lies within us. If we really truly understand that, and that's not some catchphrase, and that's not some motivational quote, that is the essence of who we are. We can change that narrative. We can do whatever the hell we truly, truly want if we really start to perceive and understand that we have that control. Once you really, really buy into that, your entire world changes, bro. We go back to what I said when I say I've been fortunate. It's really something that's been kind of programmed into me from a very early age as a child, from my parents, where they understood that I could control my narrative, I could control my essence and my path. That's why, whether it was, dealing with a, successful career, in competition, or doing something impactful, in the entertainment industry, or doing something within my family, or doing something within the business world. That controlling piece of that narrative and that common thread is what lies in between my ears and the soul that is actually the makeup of who we are, the energy of what we possess, and that encompasses our entire being. So, I mean, I don't want to get too deep on that level, but I'm just simply saying, guys, continue your journey and do it with the sense of purpose. Know your what you're doing, why you're doing it, and then how you're going to get there.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen.
All right.
Well,
Okay.
you are welcome back anytime. We appreciate you taking the time out as much as anybody else. Thank you very much, and we hope to talk to you again.
All right. And again, bless to you guys, and keep up the work. You guys are doing good. Well
Thank
done.
you.
Thanks
All right,
again.
guys.
Thank you
Take
very
care,
much.
sir.
All right. We'll talk soon.
All right, folks. That was Master Hakim Alston from WMAC Masters and Mortal Kombat fame. We're going to continue with the show now, and we're going to branch off into some real sports. Smooth, you said you had something for me to, or you something you wanted to discuss with me. What's on your mind, man?
Yeah, definitely. So, what I'll dive into is this first. So, I'm going to start with some light stuff and then take it up from there. So, we started talking a little bit about the current status of the Cleveland Indians. And, folks, their name is still the Cleveland Indians. Okay. It hasn't changed yet. So, I'm getting
Damn,
in
you
the
done
camera.
zoomed in on that one.
Yeah, man. I'm getting in the camera and saying I'm going to keep using that name. Okay. Until they change it, because that's been the name. And we already had a segment about where that came from. So no one should take offense to that. Anyway, going back to what I was saying is this. the Cleveland Indians, their current status, right, where they are, they're 5-5, third in the AL Central, which it hurt to see them drop three in a row to the Twins because for those of you who follow baseball, same division, you can't be dropping games to division opponents like that. What's your take on it so far, Mel? What do you see that, them having to happen? And is that just something we look at and go, hey, it's the beginning of the season, whatever, they kind of do this and they pick up some steam later, whatever. Like, how do you view that?
Well, here's the thing. Yes, we are going to pick up some steam. The typical April opening
Mm-hmm.
day slump that they
Yeah.
do for whatever reason. But I do see them bouncing back. I mean, you're only third, so you're only behind the White Sox that I can, if I'm not mistaken. It's either the White Sox or the Tigers, and then the Royals are, pretty much the Browns of the AL Central. Um, am I surprised that they're 5-5 right now? Yes, because this was a scenario where everything played out in their favor. They got the opening day at home. They beat on the
Yep.
Royals, which is
Mm-hmm.
which is to me the great uh, tune-up game, rather,
True.
or tune-up
Yep.
series. Uh, I thought that once they got through the Royals, they got through the White Sox. I believe it was the White Sox. If memory
Mm-hmm.
serves me right, it's the White Sox. And your first real big test is your divisional rival in the Twins. You win the first game. Bieber was outstanding, and
Killer.
then everybody else stinks up the joint. And it's like, okay, one, if I'm Terry Francona, and unfortunately I'm not, I get rid of Bradley Hand, whatever his name is. I get rid of him ASAP because if you've noticed I'll say the last 3 years, so 18,
Mm-hmm.
19, and 20, and this year, when the game's going good, Bieber, Clevenger, Kluber at one point, Trevor Bauer, whoever the starter is that's killing it, the minute Brantley Hand goes in, everything goes to shit.
Right.
And I can't stand that. I can't. And I feel like this is around the time, because of COVID and everything going on like that,
Mm-hmm.
this would have been the time that we replace Hand.
Yes.
This if not would have been, it should have been the time we replace Hand, because Hand is not who we thought he was. Where he's not where we as fans want him to be. He's not where we as journalists want him to be, and I'm pretty sure he's not where Francona wants him to be, which is the closer. That's why you're hired.
Yep.
And I really feel like, with that being said, um, I think they will bounce back. This is not anything new. Um, if you want a shot at that home series, you want to get rid of your biggest competition. And right now, your biggest competition is the Twins. The Twins did secretly, I'm not going to say secretly, but over the last 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
they have done enough to where they've put themselves in a position to win games convincingly, and to
Right.
close out games. With the pitching staff that they built up, granted, the pitching staff is not Houston's, it's not the Dodgers, it's not the Yankees, Red
Mm-hmm.
Sox, or any of that, or anybody from that nature, but it's good enough to win. They have stopped the Indians from scoring, and we all know when the Indians get hot, they're hot. So
Yep.
to see them stop the Indians from scoring, strikeouts, have them swinging at anything, lunging on at bats, or lunging at pitches you shouldn't lunge at. This should show you, if it ain't everybody, one of these teams is tired of taking these ass whoopers, and that team just so happens to be Minnesota. So
Mm-hmm.
I think this will be a close race, because everybody's playing 60 games, and it's mostly divisional games. So you have time to
Yep.
catch
That's
up.
enough.
You were You were a half game back. Now I think you're like 2 or 3 games back. So
3 games
now
back.
you're
Yep.
at a, yeah, 3 games back. So now you're at a point where you want to be in the position that you said you wanted to be in before COVID hit really hard. This would be the time you need to start doing something. Look at the farm system. See if there's
Hmm.
anything out in free agency. Dare I say, uh, I'd go look at other places for trades. Trade a prospect or two. You might have
Yeah.
to. It's not that we want you to, but you might have to in order to get the right pitchers you need.
Right.
Because if they're not in the farm system, where else are you going to look? You can't look really too much farther than a trade because pretty much everybody kept who they wanted, got rid of who they wanted. Um, Minor league ball isn't really playing anything,
Hmm.
so this would be about the time. Like, do it early, but yes, it is still early, but it's also early enough to where if there's a change that needs to be made, this would be the time to do it.
Absolutely. And then on top of that, like you said, the amount of games significantly less. Right. There's no time to be, just going about the whatever and be like, oh, maybe he'll turn around or whatever, blah blah blah. No, man. Because the thing is, like, you figure before you have 162 games, right? We're not having that this season. And even
Right.
more so, the MLB, for the first time that I know of, at least in my lifetime, is going to be playing less games than the NBA. So, with that, okay, and having a lower percentage of games to play in, you can't make mistakes that are going to be this significant or let it go for this long. You have to be like, look,
Right.
okay, we are 7 games, 10 games in, whatever. So you figure 10 games down, we got 50 games left.
And
It's
we're
not like
trying to make the
before.
playoffs.
Right. And it's like you keep dropping them like this, man. Like you said, the majority of these games are going to be divisional. So, yes, there's a chance to come back. There's not a big gap that you create because you're playing all these other teams. They got to make it happen now, like you said, if they're going to do that, man. So I'm glad that you said that. And I was sitting back like, where this is not the time for us to have the usual, okay, they start off a little slow, get hot, you know what I mean? Kind of do a little roller coaster thing there usually too, and then be kind of just ready just in time for the playoffs. You can't do that this season. You got to make it happen, bro.
Right.
So,
Yeah, because
goodness gracious.
this would really, if this was a regular 162 game season, All Star game just came and went. So this would be about the
Mm-hmm.
time, damn near crunch. This would be damn near crunch time because
Yeah.
you'd only have like what 20, 30, maybe 35 games left, depending on your
Yep.
schedule. So I'm don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
Bieber, Clevenger, Carrasco, to a degree. Um, there's your starting three right there. I believe in those three. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was not a fan of Carrasco before, but he's shown that he can hold his own, which is really something you have to do in Major League Baseball as a pitcher.
True.
Hold your own.
True.
Um, I'm not sold on our closing rotation. I'm not. And Hand
Me either.
is a big factor in that because Hand is the one pissing away the games. And because
Mm-hmm.
he's pissing away the games, it's making us look like we can't, as a team, we can't we can't finish, we can't score. You know, we beat the Twins the first game 2-0.
Right.
And that was all Bieber. Granted, we have a great defense, but here's two things. It's two things that bother me about this year's team. One, we have no real power or no real intimidating power. And
Nope.
with the loss of Puig, we lost that power, that intimidating power, because Puig was a power hitter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, our our rotation, our starting rotation is fine. According to MLB.com, it was one of the fourth best at the time of the season getting ready to start. It was the fourth best pitching rotation in MLB,
Mm-hmm.
if not just the American League. Now, you have You have pitching, you have defense. Granted, you probably would have sacrificed something if you re-signed Puig because he has to play, he has to be on the field. Probably would have
True.
sacrificed something on defense, but you make up for that with power because he's either going to knock it out the park, he's going to base hit. He may strike out, but for every strikeout, it's going to be a good hit or a good at bat. Um, the other, like I said, the other factor was we have a bad closing rotation, and that could come back to bite us in the butt because thankfully they decided not to let the number one and number two seeds pick their opponent, but you're still going to pick the second best, the next two teams with the best records after your divisional winners to even out the playoffs.
Right.
You do not want to go to Houston. You do not want to go to New York or Boston, or dare I say, even Tampa. You want them to come to you. And I'm saying that because Cleveland has a great home field advantage. You have a great fan base behind you. Granted, can't nobody go to the game right now, but you put more pressure on a team when they have to come to you instead of you having to go to them. And I think that's where that line needs to be drawn where if Francona doesn't say it, I hope the general manager says it in where, look, hand ain't cutting it. You either got to cut him, send him back down to the minors, or, put him on the shelf for the rest of the season. We got to get somebody in here to close these games after Bieber, Carrasco, and Clevenger get it done. Because the last three games, Bieber got it done. Clevenger was getting it done until, and I get it. I totally get it. 60 games, you want to keep everybody fresh. But at some point, either a player or Francona's going to have to step up and say, look, I need you to take a whole game. Need you to ride this one until we can figure out a closer that works for what we're trying to do. Because if they don't, it just might be second or third place. The Tigers and the White Sox aren't playing bad. They're not on the Indians and Twins levels, but they're not playing bad. And the last thing you want is to be in a three-way tie going into the last 5 games of the season with Detroit and Chicago, talking about we need to win these next 6, and you lose 4 out of 6, and then you're out.
Exactly, because you best believe they got something to prove this season,
man. I told you, everybody tied in the AL Central. I think the AL Central is arguably going to be once again the toughest division, just because the Indians have run it for the last 5-6 years. On top of that, now one team has said, we're tired of this. We're not taking no more ass whoopings. It's time to make a change. And that team was the Twins, which was the last team you wanted to make that change. I would have took the Twins, not the Twins. I would have took the White Sox. I would have even took the Royals to make that change. But you have the Twins, who the last 3 years have been on your back.
True.
It's time to. You got to make some pitching changes, man. That's the only way you're gonna survive this stretch. And then now, if I'm not mistaken, in the next week on the schedule, you got Boston coming up. Boston's still mad from a couple years ago getting swept. So it's got to be. Yeah, it's got to be a change made somewhere.
Now, those are valid points, and I definitely agree with all of them because, we're just lifelong Indians fans, man. And the thing is, like, we can take the bias out of that, but the writing's on the wall. It's like, look, got to make a move now if you want to make something happen. Like you said, the power factor isn't there, and we've seen seasons where they've had like that in the past, where they didn't have a power factor, and we saw how that ended up. And the thing is, back then you had 162 chances. Okay.
Right.
Something happened. And now, like a little, so, hats off to you. What happens, man, with this upcoming season? I'm hoping that they do make a turn because, like it's not that program or anything like that. They just got to make the right moves and make them happen early now with having a shorter season.
Yeah.
With regards to the NBA startup, people are like, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe it! NBA's back, man!" They got the little bubble happening, and to me, it looked like a real life replica of NBA 2K. For me, I was just like, "Oh my goodness, the courts, the little barbershop they got going on, all that." They were like, "How do we get with the game designers and make this real?" Because that's exactly what it looks like. And I was like, "This is dope."
Yeah.
Because I
I
play
did
like
see some
2K20
pictures of that.
every day. Yeah, man, I play
Of
every
course.
day. So I'm just like, oh man, this is cool seeing this. It just blew my mind, right? With them starting back up, man, and just seeing like the viewership go up and then people just excited to have something on TV all day, right? How do you feel about it overall with it finally being back? Did you feel like it wasn't going to happen? Or did you feel like, there would have been some hiccups to where maybe it'd be like, okay, we're about to start up and up, no, we're going to push it out again. Like, what's your thoughts on that?
You know what? As much as we missed sports and as much as we talked about missing sports, I
Yeah.
was happy. And to me, outside of baseball in Korea,
Mhm.
outside of uh, dare I say, um, UEFA in European leagues and soccer, the
Yeah.
NBA got it right. The
Yep.
NBA got it completely right. Out of all of the American sports, out of all 4 or 5 major American sports, football, basketball, baseball, hockey,
Hmm.
MLS, they got it right. And what I
Yeah.
mean by that is they came out with a plan. The plan was we're gonna kick out all the bum teams. I hate Cavs. I love you, but y'all stink right now. Y'all do. Well, y'all was stinking up the joint before everything hit. Like y'all was
Oh
bad.
man. Yeah. Yeah.
So what they did was instead of actually continuing the season, they said all the bum teams on the East, all the bum teams on the West, y'all gone. Y'all stay at home.
Hmm.
We ain't gonna need y'all. Anybody that's in playoff contention, we'll see y'all when we got our plan, which was smart. That was the smartest thing any sport could have done.
Exactly.
And not only did they say that, which saved a lot of people and saved a lot of organizations money, they also said, we're going to isolate y'all. We're going to put y'all in a bubble
Hmm.
and we're going to make sure nothing gets in, nothing gets out. And whoever is standing at the end of it gets the title. You can't
Yep.
ask for a better plan than that. Now, granted, there have been some dumb people who want to go to the strip club, get some wings and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
the fact that they still had a plan in place. They rented out all of Disneyland. You know how much money you have to rent out all of Disneyland and then build on top of Disneyland? So, with that plan in place, I think that was the smartest thing out of all of the major American sports somebody did. Came up with a plan. We're gonna isolate y'all. Could you have done that in baseball? Yes. Would it have been the same? No, because the obvious um the obvious things are you got players. I think you have up to 20, 15, 20 players in basketball, including your practice squad. You have 15 to
Hmm.
25 in Major League Baseball that you could take with you. So there's a big difference
Yep.
there as far as people you could take with you or people that are on your roster. The second thing was
True.
you have places where people can stay. Granted, because Georgia said it earlier in the month. I know how I feel if I'm going playing arena ball. If I go away for 6 months, they still paying me. Granted, these
Hmm.
dudes are being getting paid a hell of a lot more, so they should be able to suck it up. I'm not saying risk your life or anything like that, but if you're getting paid millions of
Right.
dollars and they have a plan that actually works and they show you you are going to be safe as long as you and nobody else does anything stupid, I'm all for it. Um,
True.
I was happy. I was happy because a lot of talk was about, before the season started, it was a lot of talk. Well, can LeBron win in the West? Clearly, he can.
Hmm.
There's no secret that you know. LeBron's played with worse, and he's playing with uh, a subpar team that just turned into the number one team in the West.
Yeah.
You know, now the talk is he going to finish what he started? I believe he will. Will the Raptors be the same? The Raptors are still productive, and Kawhi Leonard sat down for a game. So, me personally, I think this was the smartest thing for NBA. I think this was the smartest thing for sports. It works. Everybody's happy, and for those that disagree, that's fine. But if you look at every other major sport, everybody's still trying to figure out what to do. College football is college football has demoted themselves down to conference only games.
Mm-hmm.
They've cut fall sports in most. The NCAA has cut fall sports for everybody else except their major moneymaker, which is
Yep.
football. You could have did this with March Madness, no problem, if you really wanted to. It's just I don't think everybody followed the same contingency plan. Was the problem. And then when the NBA stepped up and said, you know what, fuck this, we got a bubble. Put everybody that we need to put in there, keep everybody that don't need to be here out, and we good. And you see what's happening. The games are going on, everything's fine. Major League Baseball is damn near on the verge of shutting down because of the stupid Florida Marlins.
Yep. Big outbreak.
So, right, that whole team damn near got COVID, and it sucks because you never want anything bad to happen to anybody while they're out there risking. Like sports is really entertainment. Yes, it is a sport, but it's still entertaining us as fans, us as journalists, and you still want everybody safe. Am I happy that most of the team has got COVID? No, I'm not, because I thought with the way the NBA followed and carried out their plan, I thought the MLB had something right behind it, which was just as good, if not better. And it turns out they didn't. Now, the only two sports that are really MLS has gone on without any outbreaks. They're in tournament play and they're doing just fine. So NBA, MLS have followed their contingency plans to the T. I don't understand why Major League Baseball couldn't do this. I'm tempted to see what Roger Goodell comes up with, but in the meantime, it's still the best sport right now on TV because they got a plan, it's working, and the games are entertaining.
True. And before we get into that, because I'm glad you said Roger Goodell, because I do have something I bring up about the NFL as well. Before I get into that, you did mention, okay, the NBA took those worst teams and said, you know what, that's it. We're going to roll these other teams that we have here. Now, as I pull up ESPN, because it has a label on here too, it'll tell you right now who has the X as far as who has clinched the spot in the playoff, obviously. So you have in the West, the Lakers number one. Then you have the Clippers, Denver Nuggets, Jazz, Oklahoma City Thunder, Houston Rockets, and Dallas Mavericks. The number 8 spot has not been clinched yet. And then the teams that have what's called the E next to it, where they're not happening. The Minnesota Timberwolves and the Golden State Warriors. Now,
Mm-hmm.
in the East, you have the Bucks on top. Then you have the Raptors, the Celtics, the Heat, Indiana Pacers, and the Philadelphia 76ers. The number 7 and number 8 spot have not been locked in. But here's the thing. Not many teams left with regards to that, because the one that had the East to it, we've already talked about Cleveland. You have the Atlanta Hawks, Detroit Pistons, New York Knicks, Chicago Bulls, and the Charlotte Hornets. The only other teams that are left would be Orlando Magic, Brooklyn Nets, Washington Wizards. In the you got the Spurs, the Trailblazers, the Pelicans, the Kings, and then the Suns, along with the Memphis Grizzlies. I'm glad they did that, because I don't want to see these other teams really like that. I feel like it's going to create some more entertaining games to watch, and then we'll just kind of see how it works out, man. What do you think?
If you wanted me to be honest, this is one of the more with this scenario. This is one of the more competitive um, NBA seasons because you don't have to worry about
True.
the bad teams, which makes the games more entertaining. And I actually appreciate that because I get tired of watching the Cavs get beat on. Yes, they are competing in these games, but they are still losing these games.
Yes, they
So,
are.
you know, you still got Phoenix that looks bad. The Grizzlies look bad from time to time. It's teams like that with this type of pandemic scenario going on. This was a smart idea. As I said earlier, you can't go wrong with this because every team in the scenario that you put in now is competitive. It's going to be a dogfight
Yep.
unless unless you're the top tier team like the Lakers or the Raptors, and you're going to have to play. You can't lollygag for the first 25 games of the season, come out 17-10 or something like that, or the first 30 games rather, come out 17-10 or something like that, and you turn it on after the All-Star game. You're in crunch time now from the word go, and because you're on crunch time from the word go, you got to make some moves, you got to make some changes, you got a game plan for real, because let's call it what it was. Back in the past, NBA teams weren't game planning for real until game 25, game 20, game 30 after the All-Star game. That was literally like how that pattern would go, and you could see it, you could tell. You know, Now the bubble's on, the games are on. You can't lollygag. LeBron is playing out of his mind. And now
True.
you got AD playing by his side. Like, you really think, and now here's the even better scenario for that. You got LeBron playing. He's playing next to AD. He actually pushes people to do better, Jordan-esque. I'm not gonna say it was Jordan or it is Jordan because these are two different players, two totally different players for the folks at home. He's pushing everybody on the Lakers to play better. The Lakers are 20 something without him on the court. They're second with him on the court in scoring and points per game, I believe. So, what did you think was going to happen when they came up with a scenario where he could still play? And now he's rested. He's had 4 months of rest. He can go through these games and not have to sit. Do you know what kind of monster that would turn into?
Man, it's like hitting the recharge button on that, bro. I mean, you figure this top of the season, man, you'd be like, all right, maybe I have a game here and there where I'm taking less minutes, or even if I play the whole game, let's say I, sit one out, whatever, against a team that we know would be a lot less competitive, right? So you go, okay, you take that time, but this dude, like you said, had months to recover. If he had an injury or something that he pulled, whatever,
Right,
he's had a chance to heal that up. I mean, he fresh like it's a new season. So to be
right.
late and to be fresh, oh my god, I can't wait. I can't wait, man.
And you
it's
know what?
nuts.
It's funny. It's actually funny that you bring this up with the bubble and the COVID and everything because I had
Mhm.
just wrote an article for Cleveland Sports Talk. Shout out to Zach Sheffron and everybody over there. But I just wrote an article about this, about the Browns having the
Mhm.
'cause remember when we were in we had I posted that picture of who that reporter thought was going to have the top five offenses in the NFL, and the Browns were second. And I did my research, and I went off of what was presented in front of me, and that's
Mhm.
exactly what I came up with for the Browns. Everybody in that scenario in that offense is coming back healthy. Odell was hurt all last year. Excuse me. Odell was hurt all last year and still got 1,000 yards.
Yeah, he did.
Imagine, imagine what's gonna happen when he's got a healthy Jarvis, a healthy Kareem Hunt, a healthy Nick Chubb, and he comes back healthy. Mind you, I'm not a Browns fan, but I could put two and two together. And two and two together say, If they can keep that offensive line intact, they can break it. And Stefanski puts together a good system, it's gonna be a scary offense.
I feel that too.
I
And on
think
top of that,
LeBron
it's
might
funny
come
too.
back and watch a game. He might find a way to come back again.
Oh yeah, you already know, man. He gonna come back and see it because you figure with this happening, and for those of you who are fans of Cleveland, along with myself, it's gonna be one of those like once in a lifetime opportunities to be able to see them actually try to do something right because they've had maybe what yeah, just two winning seasons in the last 20 years. Let's call it what it is. And the thing is, to have that happen on this level, and it's something I told you too. I was like, this is the final shot. You could not have put together a team this location, because let's talk about in this location, because there's so many players that are like, nah, I ain't going there. I ain't playing. No way I'm going there ever. You know what I'm saying? And to have that stigma, right, and
Not
to put
unless I need
together
a check.
this level, this type of team, exactly. And they got all the money in the world right now to be spending, and it's like it's just time, to see something happen. If they don't get it right with this type of team they put together on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball, but especially the offensive side of the ball, then it's like that there's just no hope. I'm sorry. Like this is it. You have to do something right now. You have to.
Right,
So
right.
to see it happen, the teams put together, man, it's like it's a dream come true. Hopefully something comes of it. But anybody like myself who's been watching them for so long, you're just like, I believe when I see it. Even with the talent
And
they
you
got,
know
you like,
what?
I believe when I see it.
And you know what? You would be right, but you know, as we've talked before, I got a strange feeling that even with the Steelers, Ben coming back, but Ben has to stay healthy. That offensive line has to
Mm-hmm.
protect him, and they got to have a running game. They don't have any real
Yes, they do.
receiver, number one receiver to speak of outside of Juju. The Bengals have a young quarterback who has to prove himself. Don't get me wrong, Joe Burrow is a bad boy at LSU, but being a bad boy in college and being a bad boy in the NFL, two totally different things. Not to mention, you're
Mm-hmm.
on one of the worst teams in the division and the league. So
Man,
we won't even put Cincinnati in that scenario. It's a three-way race
nope.
between Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and Baltimore. And right now, the road to the division title goes through Baltimore. And I feel if the Browns keep their heads on straight, this could actually turn into a two-way race if they play this right. Meaning everybody stays healthy, doesn't do anything stupid, and Stefanski gives them the right system. I think the Browns could either go second place or they have a shot. They have a long shot to win the division.
Mm-hmm. I can see that too. And since you brought up Baltimore, because I wasn't even gonna touch on this, the NFL top 100, they put Lamar Jackson as the number one player above Pat Mahomes, Mr. MVP, Mr. I got a Super Bowl ring. What are your thoughts? Because I'm, bro, you already know how I feel. What are your thoughts on that? Because Lamar's
Well,
gifted. I'm not going to hate the dude, but number one overall after this past season, do you agree with that?
here's the thing,
Right
King.
now,
And
though.
yeah, I'm going to address this because this is actually the first time I'm hearing about this. Because I
Okay.
don't pay attention to the top 100.
Mm,
So to hear this, am I surprised? Yes, very much so. Does it shock me? No. Why does it not
okay.
shock me? Here's two things I want people to pay attention to. One, Lamar Jackson is a one of a kind quarterback.
Yes.
Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. He is a quarterback. He is not a running quarterback. I have seen Just because he runs does not mean he's a running quarterback. He just has that ability. Like we talked with Stanley Jackson, they said Stanley Jackson was a running quarterback. But when you look at these Ohio State games that he played in, he had over 300 yards or close to 300 yards every time he dropped back to pass. Never had 300 yards in a season rushing ever, or never had over 300 yards in a season. So when you look at Lamar, and I want people to hear me on this, and I don't want nobody to just assume I'm a Lamar Jackson fan because I'm not. But I pay attention to talent. I pay attention to his intangibles, and I pay attention to him leading the team on the field. You go back to the playoff game with, um, you go back to the playoff game against Tennessee, and Lamar Jackson was handedly keeping that team in the game when Derrick Henry was running all over them. That defense was supposed to be one of the top 5 defenses in the league, and Derrick Henry shredded them.
Mm-hmm.
Shredded them. Granted, don't get me wrong here. Ryan Tannehill is a good quarterback. He is not Joe Montana. He is not Steve Young. He ain't even Warren Moon. Okay?
Right.
And for him to have that kind of running back took so much pressure off of him that when it came time for Baltimore to beat, Lamar had his work cut out for him. He was making passes. He was making the runs he needed to make. Because you see, when he dropped back to pass, he didn't just take off and run after 3 seconds. He was looking for the open receiver. And there were drop passes. There were missed passes. But he was making the passes he needed to make, whether they got caught, whether they got dropped. He was still making that decision. Patrick Mahomes, let's be honest about this. He benefited. He literally benefited from a pass happy system at Texas Tech. Okay? Anybody from the Big 12 knows you are coming from a pass happy school. There hasn't been a real running back worth noting or that has stayed in the NFL long enough to talk about since Ricky Williams. I say that to say this. The top 100 is a popularity contest. Do I believe Pat Mahomes should be behind Lamar Jackson? No. Because when you win and you win consistently and you have the hardware to show for it, meaning the Vince Lombardi trophy, you deserve to be number 1. But at the same, you do not ignore a man like Lamar Jackson, because when it came time, Lamar Jackson held that team together. What I mean by that is playoff time, because let's look at reality. We always see ball gonna get ugly if Lamar don't show up. Like if Lamar choked, like choke, that game gets ugly fast. You let Derrick Henry run all over you, so that gives real quick. And then with Henry, really that gives Hill a chance. He doesn't have to, do what he did and put the team on his shoulders. So, Lamar did his job, and that's what you're supposed to do as a quarterback in the NFL. You're supposed to manage the game. He managed the game and then some. It's because his defense let him down is not his fault. That is a defense. It's a team sport, but when you break it down to offense, defense, and special teams, that is a defensive fault. That's a defensive fault by all means, because you still have to. You got to tackle, and if you're scared to tackle a man like Derrick Henry, you don't need to be on the field. I would say there would have been, if I'm putting that list together, and I got Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson left, it'd be a 1 and a 1A. Or a 1A and 1B, because they both bring something to the table that you cannot take away. And they both bring something to the table that is more meaningful to the overall team's success than just, numbers. So my thoughts on that would have been, whoever came up with this list, you should have did it right. 1A, 1B, because for the next 7 to 10 years, these two guys are going to be going at it, and it's going to be real entertaining to watch.
I agree with that too. And I feel like, with just those two, when you look at QBs, right, NFL's future is pretty much in a good state with having these guys in there right now, man. And with Brady, whenever he decides to walk away, and then some of the other guys we've been watching for a while, it's just good to see two cats like this come out, represent, and hold it down. And they have like, still an upside when it comes to their potential. And I'm very excited to see what they do. But yeah, man, like you
Yeah,
said, it's a popularity contest. Based off statistics and what we've seen in these games, yeah, it does make sense to have Mahomes ahead. And like you said, a 1A 1B scenario definitely makes sense to me as well too. But yeah, with popularity, and with him, I believe he's about to be on the front of Madden as well too, right?
I
Lamar
thought he
Jackson
was on the front of Madden.
in front of
Or
Madden.
Lamar?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I thought you meant Mahomes because I thought to say I thought
No,
Mahomes
no, no,
was
no,
already
no.
on the cover.
Yeah, he had that already. Lamar's,
But you also
based off
better be
this year.
careful with that. I can't even say that because Mahomes just broke the curse. So he was on the
He
cover and
broke
then
it.
won the Super Bowl. Yeah.
Yep.
So for Lamar, for Lamar's sake, my only concern is will Jim Harbaugh talk some sense into him as in a sense of you don't have to run as much anymore because we're gonna get you the help. And I hope they're gonna get him the help that he needs, or I hope somebody steps up and helps him because that easily could have been a Baltimore Kansas City rematch in the AFC Championship, which I felt should have been, but due to the Ravens defense not being able to stop Derrick Henry, it kind of put a monkey wrench in the program. But I do believe Lamar Jackson should get the cover of Madden. I do believe he should be in the top 5 quarterbacks going into the season. And I do believe he should be, somebody to watch during this season coming up.
Now, here is what I wanted to bring up, and I don't want to turn into a controversy or anything like that. But for me, and just my beliefs and everything, when I heard this, I'm like, okay, it struck me weird about a week or so ago, and then I see another example of the kneeling and everything before the game, right? So we all know what happened. Just the Here's my thing. There's two different scenarios, right? You have a giant pitcher that is named Rod, and then you have a young brother who by the name of Jonathan Isaac from the Magic still playing as well, right? So for those that don't know, of course, Cancun Rod, he is the Anglo-Saxon white American type, right? So nothing wrong with that. Then you have Jonathan Isaac, who's African American, both themselves the same. Now the connection there is that they both say it has something to do with the fact that they're Christian. So here's my thing. When I looked at what the Giants pitcher said about his faith and then looking at Jonathan Isaac and what he said about it, two totally different perspectives, two different ways of explaining it as well.
Ronnie, I
Will,
can't hear you, bro.
oh snap. Can you hear me?
You're muffled.
Am I? Hold on. Sorry. I get going on. Sorry. My buds. Let me do this real quick.
Do this real quick.
Oh, that's much better. All right, folks. Well, you're stuck with me for a bit, but gonna give you or try to give you guys a couple score updates. At least from the world of sports today, the Indians did end up losing to the Twins by a score of, I believe it was 5-2. Gotta look that up. Um, This just in, breaking news: Eagles head coach Peterson test positive. We wish him the best. Hope he gets better. Um, the Bucks are currently leading the Rockets 73, or no, the Bucks are losing to the Rockets 73-76. Um, the Red Sox are behind to the New York Yankees 9-7, so basically a shootout in baseball terms. That's the top of the ninth with 2 outs, and who else is? No, I'm sorry. The Indians lose to the Twins 3-1. The Rangers beat the Giants 9-5. Astros and the Angels are final in 11 innings. Astros win that one 6-5. Cubs win over the Pirates 2-1. It's the Pirates. Come on. The Diamondbacks lose to the Dodgers. Diamondbacks lose to the Dodgers 3-0, and the A's beat the Mariners 3-2. So I was trying to give people some score updates while you handle your technical. NBA scoreboard. The Mavericks are up on the Suns 73-60 at half.
Ooh.
The Celtics beat the Trailblazers 128-124. The Magic beat the Kings 132-116.
Ooh.
Yeah. The Nets beat the Wizards 118-110, and the Spurs beat the Grizzlies 108-106. So that's it for the NBA tonight and MLB tonight. The Blue Jackets, because I know you're a hockey fan, the Blue Jackets are currently beating the Maple Leafs 1-0.
Cool.
Philadelphia has beaten Boston 4-1. The Minnesota Wild and Canucks don't play till 10:30. Meanwhile, in the West, the Coyotes beat the Predators 4-3, and the Avalanche beat the Blues 2-1. So,
Man,
because I know you're a hockey fan, I do want to see Columbus succeed. Though they've been in it for a long time, and they deserve to. They deserve to see the trophy once, at least once.
You know, the biggest obstacle is usually the Penguins.
Yeah, but you know what? The Penguins been falling off lately. They still have a great team. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But with greatness comes age, and what I mean by that is they're getting older. Because they're
They are.
getting older, you know, you only got so much more time. So I'm curious to see how they play through this.
Me too.
All right,
Um,
I think you got one more topic before we get out of here. So let's get right into that. Sorry about my hand, folks.
no, you good. Um, so what I was saying, man, was that, with the kneeling and everything else happening, because what I wanted to kind of jump into was, Jonathan Isaac, I felt between the two guys that said that they are Christian and that, this is something that they felt, they had to kind of just stand for anyway. It made more sense me reading what Jonathan Isaac said, and he was going to it talking about how, you know, this isn't the way, this is something that is going to be more so healed through like the gospel and whatnot. So that made more sense to me. He didn't go into the whole like, oh, it's Marxism and this and that. And it's just a different perspective because he's like, at the end of the day, yeah, I support them. Yeah, I'm with them, but I'm not about to wear a shirt. I'm not about to kneel, nothing like that. I felt him on that only because it's being done so widespread to the point where it's gonna lose its flavor, right? It's gonna become a
Right.
fad. It's gonna become a
I,
hashtag. It's
I
not gonna
agree.
continue. You got it going on jerseys. You got it going on helmets now. They got decals approved for the NFL, for the NCAA if that happens. Players have like statements on the back of their jersey replacing the name and all of this stuff. And then you got people who are allowing them to do decals of like on the helmets of those who have fallen, right? So you figure
Mm.
if the whole team comes out and they're like, oh, let's all wear Breonna Taylor decal today. Let's wear, a Philando Castile decal or whatever. Like, I get it. I get the support there and whatnot. Me personally, I kind of feel what Isaac did because my thing is I've never been a patriotic person. I'm just gonna put that out there. And with me personally, it's like when I used to stand during the anthem for football games, whatnot. I didn't have my hand on my heart. I didn't have all the extra things that went along with that. I just stood out of respect, and I kind of just was there, like, all right, I'm gonna be quiet, not say nothing, but I wasn't doing all the extra movements and whatnot because I wanted to kind of be in that middle ground. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But yeah, I feel like my take is that it's gonna lose its flavor, man. It's just too many people doing it. I don't know if it's for fad right now because it's hot. You got teams changing names over it and stuff like that. I'm kind of with it where it's like I'm a support. I definitely feel the movement. Me being an African American myself, but at the same time, it's just too many folks doing it, man. It's becoming trendy. It's gonna
Yeah, it
lose its
is.
fire. So that's my take on it, man. And I feel like I'm down with what Jonathan Isaac said. I don't agree with people saying that he's a patriot or something like that because he didn't come out and actually say that. He's just saying like, look, this is what needs to happen to change it. With all that happening and with different players who are choosing to do it and not do it or whatever, or some that have publicly said that they will do it, what is your take on that, man? Like, what do you feel like is going to come about that happening across all these different sports and different platforms now that all of a sudden it's, getting that widespread attention that it didn't have 4 years ago when Cap started?
Okay, here's the thing. So I'm glad you brought up Cap. Let's rewind back to 2009, 2010.
Yep.
You can blame the NFL for this.
Yep.
If it wasn't for the NFL taking $9 million a year from the Department of the Defense, we wouldn't have to stand during the national anthem while the players were on the field or while, we wouldn't have the flyovers and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
The NFL agreed, have a partnership, a written partnership with the Department of Defense to play the national anthem before games, have a flyover before games, have the flag pulled out before games, or visualized in some way. Because remember, as kids going to Browns games or going to Indians games or whatever, the players were not on the field when the
Nope.
national anthem was played.
They're in locker room
You got
still.
the Yeah, you got the national anthem, and then you got the player introductions, and let's start the game. So you can blame the NFL for that. Now, as far as players making their own decisions, that's perfectly fine with me. You can be patriotic any way you want to be and still support a cause. You don't have to just jump into a cause just for the hell of it. You know
Yep.
why it's happening. You know what you need to do. You know how you feel. That's all that matters.
Yep.
Now, as far as what you said with the trends and with the statements on the helmets and the jerseys, I completely agree. Here's why I agree. You don't have to publicize it anymore. It's in everyday life.
Yep.
It's in the news. It's on the radio. It's on the internet. It's everywhere. And because it's everywhere, you already know what the issues are. You already know what the problem is. You can figure out a solution through listening if you really wanted to. Now, me personally, I have family in the military, just like I'm sure you did.
Yep.
But it's my choice whether I want to stand for the national anthem or not. Just because I don't stand, don't make me unpatriotic. If I protest during the national anthem, it's not because I want to disrespect the flag. The flag has nothing to do with my protest. The national anthem lyrics may have something to do with why I'm protesting. But what I
Mm.
did, but what I did find out was that my protest got noticed. That was what I wanted. If I'm Kaepernick, and so with that being said, you can't tell nobody how to protest. You can't tell nobody how to support, what to support, who to support.
True.
Do I feel like this is too much of a trend? Yes, because especially in the NCAA, because this is nothing but another way for the NCAA to modify, regulate, and possibly make money off of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I do feel should change is that with all these games going on, if you really want to make a statement, you either donate some of the money to these families that coming from these TV deals because you ain't got no people there. You
True.
donate some of the money to these families that's been through these tragedies of their relatives getting killed, like Breonna Taylor or George Floyd. You pay for the lawyers. You pay for you know for the expenses to get justice. That's what if you really wanted to make a statement. That's an idea.
Exactly.
But putting statements on the back of my jersey, I can really care less about that because you know what? At the end of the day, I still gotta take that jersey off and I walk out the door. I said black, African American black. It's the same to me because I'm in America. Number one. Number two, my race don't define me, but y'all defining me as a race. So yeah, when I take this jersey off, I'm still a black man. I still got to walk down the street. I still got
Yeah.
to get to my car, drive to my neighborhood. Hopefully, I don't get pulled over. So with that being said, I don't agree with the trend of putting statements on the jerseys, putting statements on helmets, decals, or whatever. What I do feel should happen is you want to make a big statement, help these people get justice.
Yeah.
Don't just talk about it. Help these people get justice. Because believe me, if it was me and I had the means to, I'd be helping these families get justice. Because no way, shape, be a reason by just by getting pulled over for a no knock warrant. I get shot in my own house. There's no reason that should ever happen. And those cops should be held accountable because you hold us accountable for everything we do as black men.
Exactly.
So, you know, I'm all for it if it helps. If it don't help and nothing changes, shit don't mean nothing.
I'm right there with you, man. I'm right there with you because right now I just see this being just trendy, and then when it comes to, let's say, first day of fall or whenever it chooses to fall off again, it's like another situation where okay, it gets louder and louder every time, but the issue still lies there and nothing changes.
Right.
And
And
it's
it
just
does.
tiring.
It does.
It's
Especially
tiring.
with Ahmaud Arbery. That think that case bothered me
Oh,
the most.
that. Mm,
And like I said, this is one of those times I feel like sports should bring everybody together and it should bring everybody together, period, because we all have a common a common theme, and that's
yep.
sports. But with sports comes, you know, responsibility. Like, I can't tell you how many people I know of every color, like LeBron James. Can't tell you how many people of every color were fans of Wayne Gretzky, were fans of Venus and Serena, David
Hmm.
Beckham, and behind closed doors, like when you in front of me and we at the game, you rooting for the same person I'm rooting for, but behind closed doors, you can't stand her. How does that work? You can't have it both ways.
You can't.
So yeah, like I said, if it helps get the message across, if it helps bring justice, I'm all for it. But if it don't, might as well just cut it short now. Save yourself the money.
Right. Exactly.
All right, folks, that will be it for us. We now you can catch us on YouTube as we have our own YouTube channel. This video will be uploaded later to our YouTube channel at 4th&15 with Mel and Smooth. Join us next week. We will have another live stream show as we will welcome Coach Jeremy Layata of the indoor football world onto our show. And believe it or not, we got a couple more special guests coming up later on this month. So you guys might want to stick with us. We do appreciate y'all for sticking with us in our first show and just continue to support us. Follow us on Facebook, 4th&15 with Mel and Smooth. You can follow us on YouTube. The channel is up. Just like I said, this episode will be uploaded, and just we hope you love it and hope you love to continue to support us. We appreciate you guys very much.
Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, I'm Smooth. My guy Mel
I'm
over
Mel.
here.
Peace.